But God provides the third way. Neither signs, neither logic, but the cross. And the cross condemns both of those. How does the cross go against signs and how does it go against logic? For the word of the cross is folly to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. So for Christians who are in the process of being saved, what is the power of God? The cross. And then why does Paul say that? Verse 19, he quotes an Old Testament passage. It's very important to look at what he's quoting here. He's quoting Isaiah 29:14. So whenever you see a quotation, look back at the original context of that original quotation. So what's Isaiah 29:14 talking about? The context is that Israel made a treaty with Egypt when God specifically told them not to make treaties with foreign nations, but to trust in him for their future salvation. And instead of trusting in God, they trusted in their wise political treaties, which eventually led to the Assyrian exile. What was their process of being saved? The way they should have been saved, not spiritually saved, but delivered from exile, is by trusting in God and his ways. But instead of trusting in God and his ways, they trusted in their wisdom. And by trusting their wisdom, they thought, you know what, we can't just trust God. We got to make treaties with these nations. That way we have peace treaties and blah, blah, blah. So they made a peace treaty with Egypt, which ended up backfiring later on. So they utilized their human wisdom, which ended up not saving them in the end, but actually ended up judging them in exile. Let's read what verse 19, what that quotation is. God writes, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the discernment of the discerning I will thwart. So what he is saying is, this is God's indictment on Israel, saying, you trusted in your wisdom instead of my wisdom, in your discernment instead of my discernment, and because of that, now you're going to have horrible consequences of becoming political slaves, when that all could have been prevented if you just trusted in my wisdom instead of yours. He now gives us a list of rhetorical questions. Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? So these terms, scribe, is a Jewish term. These were the smart Jewish people that wrote the thing. And what do you think the next one he goes to is the debater of the age? What's that referring to? Not Jewish, but that's the Greek concept of people who use logic to debate. Because remember, who are the people in Corinth? They're a mixed bag. Some of them were looking at things through the Jewish eye. Who is your rabbi? Let's compare. Your rabbi's Paul, my rabbi's Apollos, and then who is some of the people with the Roman or Greek background? Well, who's using the logic? Who's eloquent? Let's listen to that person. And he's saying both of these. He's not actually asking a question. He's making a statement. What is a scribe compared to God? What is the debater of the age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? In other words, why are you looking to these two paradigms with this wisdom from the world? God considers it to be folly. Why? Because we already seen in history how when Israel trusted in their wisdom, it just led to them becoming political slaves. Verse 21. For since in the wisdom of God, the world did not know God through wisdom, it pleased God through the folly of what we preach to save those who believed. And then, verse 22, now he's going to do a bunch of commenting on the Jewish idea of wisdom and the Greek idea of wisdom, and he's going to condemn both sides here. For Jews demand signs. Now, what is that? What do Jews demand? Well, Jews were into signs and wonders, which is miracles. Because one of the things they believed is that there's going to be a coming Messiah who will perform certain signs and wonders and miracles, which is why Jesus, his miracles, affirmed that he was a Messiah. That was the whole purpose of his miracles. So for Jews, they needed the signs or the miracles to believe in, quote unquote, the Messiah. But what do Greeks? They're not into signs and miracles because that's very mystical for the Greeks. The Greeks are into what? Wisdom. This is the idea of logic, right? Greek logic. So those are the two ways. Jews look at the miraculous to confirm what is from God, and Greeks look at what is logical to confirm what is from God, because the word logos is actually, for the Greek idea, it's not just logic, but it's actually the mind of God. That actually comes from God. That's why John 1:1, and he uses the word that Jesus was the what? Logos. Because John is commenting on the Greek thinking of that time, that logos is not God. Logos, Jesus is God, who is logos in human flesh. But God provides the third way. Neither signs, neither logic, but the cross. And the cross condemns both of those. How does the cross go against signs, and how does it go against logic? Well, let's see. The cross goes against the Jewish idea of signs and wonders because it's a stumbling block to Jews. Why? Because being crucified means that a person would hang on a tree. According to law, anyone that hangs on the tree is a curse. Paul talks about this in the book of Galatians. How can you say God is cursed if you say Jesus is God? Right? That's why that's a huge stumbling block. If you tell a Jewish person Jesus is God, the first thing he'll say is there's no way he can be God because God will never curse himself on a tree. So he can't be crucified. And also, how does God die? Right? There's multiple layers of this for a Jewish person. So for a Jewish person, this is a stumbling block. Literally, it causes them to fall. It's scandalous. The word stumbling block is scandalous. This is scandalous to the Jewish idea. That's why crucifixion was the worst thing for any Jewish person. That's why they didn't crucify people. For Jewish people, they did what? They stoned them. They would never hang them on a tree or wood because that is considered a sign of a curse according to the law. So Jesus didn't just get killed. He died in a specific way that will go against everything a Jewish person believes to be, that believes that that is a curse, a sign that God is judging you. All right, how does the cross go against, so it goes against this sign, the Jewish idea. How does the cross go against logic? Folly to Gentiles, because how can a man be 100% man and 100% God? Let's just think logically. Can 100% plus 100% equal one person? No. Right? As hard as it is for us for modern day people to believe this, we have to remember that during Jesus' time, that's where it was all logic was created from that time. Like we almost think back at people, they're like, oh, they're primitive. No, as hard as it is for a super smart atheist friend to believe in 100% man, 100% God who died and crucified and resurrected, it's just as hard for people back in Jesus' time too. You don't think it's hard for Plato and Aristotle, people of that, disciples of them? They're the logic creators. They're the ones that created mathematics. Of course, to them, this equation of the gospel doesn't make sense. God doesn't follow the paradigm set by any culture or from any people in the world. He presents a different way all the time. The power of God is not seen through logic, and the power of God is not seen through the signs. The power of God is seen through the cross, which goes against both of those things. God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. God chose what is low and despised in the world, even things that are not, to bring to nothing things that are, so that, purpose. Why did God do this? Why does he choose not the wise, not the powerful, not the noble, not the strong? Why does he choose just regular people to be called as his people? Why does he save just regular people, right? So that no human being might boast in the presence of God. There it is. You know why God brings a message of the cross? You know why God doesn't follow the Greek way or the Jewish way, but sends a third way? You know why God chooses people who aren't the elite? So that nobody who is called and a Christian today would boast. That's what it's all about.